Welcome to another Baka commentary. In this video will be my analysis on the current state of basically most of the CPU platforms that you'll see on the market. And as always, I'll give my analysis and impression of after I finish explaining it. So first off, the type of CPU that you've probably already seen a lot of it is what I consider legacy CPU platform, which is known as the x86 and the x64 platform. The two major vendor in this, the major brand in this is, well, AMD and Intel. Let's first talk about Intel. That is, since a lot of time, most of the people who are watching this video or it will be like, you probably have or have seen a Intel laptop in the wild, in retail, in your work, your home, or even everywhere. You will have probably seen an Intel CPU or use their Intel platform. Why has basically Intel basically became such mega mainstream, it's in everywhere? That's just due to the fact that, well, Intel, well, they have a bunch of IPs, and on top of, they help their vendors slash product manufacturers go, hey, we want you to make this product with our Intel platform. Oh yeah, we will come in and we will help you build the platform. We'll give you both the silicon platform and on top of, oh yeah, you want to know how to cool the CPU, do everything, and we'll make sure to help you make the best product. And as well, if there's a bit of R&D cost or some marketing cost, guess what? Intel them is like, yeah, we are willing to spend it, help you build your product so that it builds to a, pretty good, decent standard. The downside of this is because certain vendors are reliant on these Intel marketing slash R&D funding, or a lot of times, some of them, they get predatory contract by like, hey, you cannot use this, our Intel, assisted tooling, anything product, like, you can't use it for our other non-Intel platform, which, again, this is why, again, you see a lot of Intel platform, a lot of Intel hardware in a lot of product, and you don't see a lot of their competitor in the same product lineup, or they are, but they're not as prominent. But this has now also, thanks to Intel basically doing this stuff, has now also got them, if you aren't aware, recently, Intel has started to run out of money. And they are starting to become like, we are unable to help you vendors anymore with, in marketing and R&D costs, however, does Intel know that these things are what keeps them in the market? So what is Intel doing to keep themselves, trying to reach the current and staying at this mainstream power? They're doing this by going to each Intel employee and the Intel subsidiary companies like, hey man, we need to lay off, or here's a bunch of early retirement packages for any of those old Intel employees. Would you like to take it? We'll pay you out this retirement package. You retire early. We don't have to fire you. We don't have to let you go or whatever stuff. For some employees, they take this package and ask for the employees that don't meet these things. Unfortunately, they joined the list of the list of employees to let go, be on the let go on the firing line, to be like, yeah, sorry man, we are going to be having to fire you because again we're here to slim down our department. I know the previous CEO is like, yeah, you're needed, but current new Intel, we don't need you anymore. And as well as for Intel to now basically try and rebuild some of the cash reserves again, Intel is now selling off subdivision of Intel, like you probably be like Intel laptop. Again, they're selling that off. Networking, Intel selling it off again. Intel Wi-Fi modems, again, they're selling it off. Again, the data center pre-built servers, again, Intel is selling them. But Intel has, with their co-partners, they're doing, the people that they're buying, that they're selling to is known, Intel like to be called the special co-partners, where Intel holds the 49% of the special controlling stake in the company, and the other co-partners or partner will buy the other 51%, but Intel will become the major shareholder and is still technically in control of these Intel subsidiary that has been sold off to co-partners, because again, on paper you are using Intel IP and all the intellectual property, and you're still technically using Intel facility, but it's just that you are simply now another owner that they brought in, that they came in to be like, hey, yeah, we need cash. Okay, here's the deal we give you. Here's the share that we give you to give you some sense of, hey, yeah, of ownership of Intel. This is the complete opposite of their of Intel right now. It is their competitor. You've probably seen it, AMD. AMD is very much, here's our silicon and our platform. If you meet our minimum standard base spec, guess what? You can sell it. This has the pros of this. You get some really high performance AMD products that pushes into the AMD high performance profile, and this has resulted in quite a lot of AMD laptops that are really high performance. They tend to sell out pretty fast, and for any even sniff of any like even inventory, or even there's a queue of opened up queue, you bet people would be like, yeah, I'm joining in this queue. I am going to go pay about premium to get these AMD platforms. This on top of, well, AMD has seemed to have dominated the x86, x64 handheld market. You probably have seen it. Steam Deck, a lot of the ROG Ally, and, a lot of those other portable handheld PC. Guess what? They all use the AMD hardware, thanks to a fact, again, AMD's like, yeah, we'll let you do that with our hardware. And Intel, on the other hand, they do have it, but it seems like most of the OEMs like, yeah, we know your competitor also has it, but AMD has the best hardware for handheld gaming. Which you're wondering, why are they able to offer such a good hardware for these like handheld portable gaming? Is because, well, they also happen to make game console. Do you go to your local game shop and be like, hey, what's a PS5, Xbox series, a lot of Xbox? Guess what? Most of those consoles are made, again, buy AMD silicon. Again, this is also the reason why, again, AMD's like, here's all our IP, and oh yeah, we can also help you in the. We also have all these. You willing to do a little bit of customization? Yes, we can do that for you. And as a result, that's how you got all these, game consoles. And again, some of the handheld, they are using off-the-shelf AMD, but with slight tweaks of the specification to hit it for that specific use case. Which is, well, pretty good. But at the same time, this is also a bad thing as one, by a lot of time, this result, if you're one of those people who's like, I don't like queues, or I want to be able to instantly buy a product when they are announced or get in the queue instantly, it is pretty horrific. As there's as a result of a lot of these vendors needing to do these customization validation themselves instead of, the competitor where they do the validation for you and they're a lot more better at it, where they're doing it. The result, you can be like, in 2024, they announce something, you can't really buy it in 2024, and you end up being like, yeah, I'm having to wait 1 year for the product, like some of the AMD product, that it took quite a bit long time to get to the market by the time the design announcement has announced. And by the time the actual previous, by the time those hardware comes out, guess what? New generation hardware comes announced again. Again, if you're one of those people who's like, in those cycle of, I want in that, I think AMD has to fix these poor issues. And on top of, another downside with AMD, some vendors will not disclose to you that the AMD hard silicon or the platform they're using is not at the performance mode or even at the regular performance profile, and it is using a low performance profile due to the fact that, yes, eco mode is considered part of AMD spec, and sometimes AMD doesn't really tell their vendors, be like, hey, if you're going to be running these, eco mode, you don't really have to disclose it. And a lot of time, you end up with some people who buy these AMD devices and be like, yeah, why is it so bad? Oh, right, because this thing is on eco mode and the vendor did not tell me, and I had to go find out by buying it myself and using it, or two, having to do a lot of legwork and be like, and look at reviewers reviewing these AMD product silicon platform hardware. Overall, due to what I believe both Intel and AMD has basically become a legacy empire of what they has put, and on top of what have done, have really made the x86, x64 platform overall a pretty much a well-mature, well-supported from both the consumer and, the developers, and on the hardware side, it's a really good ecosystem. And yeah, which time to explain the next popular architecture CPU platform that you probably have seen, and that is the ARM. From the variety of ARM users. If you're using an ARM device, guess what? You probably have seen it, even though you're not aware that you're using an ARM device. Those devices are, well, Qualcomm, Apple, MediaTek, Google, Pixels. Guess what most of these products are? They are mostly, well, mobile phones and tablet. And, well, in some of them devices, Microsoft is bringing it with some Windows on ARM. This is kind of, well, more modern design, thanks to the fact that, again, when ARM seems to be more of like, yeah, here's the or a bunch of cores and IP off the shelf stuff you can do, but you can do your own customization to it, or you can just legit just take it off and just take what's on the shelf and just resell it as your own. The ones that is really custom, you've probably seen them, the Apple M series and the A series silicon. These guys, they're what I consider the full ARM ecosystem, or as they control both the hardware. They have a custom ARM CPU and GPU, and on top of they have an Apple Eco OS, and the ecosystem of App Store and everything that is specifically designed for Apple hardware, which again, this has resulted in Apple being able to do the transition between the older legacy x86, x64 Apple stuff into the more modern day design ARM design hardware of the M and A series silicon, which is what I consider, well, the perfect example of ARM ecosystem in modern day ARM ecosystem in action by both the hardware manufacturer and the software and the developer side. The another thing with ARM ecosystem is you probably are used on your phone and you're probably using Android. You're probably using a Qualcomm MediaTek SoC. These two chips are the most popular chip in mobile phone, tablet, and even laptops with Qualcomm Snapdragon Elites. These ARM on Android seems to have gone really popular again, and as a result, for most people that wants to make money, or most developers that want to make money or want to have maximum user base, they're using on the Samsung, on the Google Play Store, they have all designed their stuff around the ARM Android ecosystem. The problem with these is ARM on the low end can get pretty cheap, but at the same time the experience on the hardware and the software side can get pretty bad if the developer or the OEM if the ARM manufacturer does it pretty poorly. This is kind of seen with Windows on ARM, and on top of quite a lot of cheap budget Android devices that is very, very slow and laggy, and this has resulted in quite a lot of headache among the developer for the the Android ecosystem, where they have to really cut out features that are simply unable to be run on the lower end hardware. If for the people that are willing to and for the people that's like, yeah, it seems like it's both. Basically, ARM needs to do the thing where it's like it has to talk with the developers to ensure that their experience isn't too bad or is as good. But once that thing, ARM is able to fix that problem, I believe ARM is very much a good alternative to replace x86 and x64 for most end users, and they can go, yeah, I'm not using x86, x64 devices anymore. I'm just going to rely on my ARM Qualcomm laptop, tablet, which 99% of the time, most people, they are fine with using these ARM devices. And now, on to the new kid on the block, and that is RISC-V. This is very much in the early stages of adaptation due to the fact that RISC-V has no off-the-shelf like ARM, has no really off-the-shelf, has no pre-sustained ecosystem that has been built with legacy, and thanks to the fact that, again, this is very, very early, and a lot of time, not a lot of people are using, like developers, hardware vendors are on the RISC-V platform, but however, for the platform that are vendors that have their RISC-V ecosystem, they have their specific niche use case for specific clients, for their specific use case that is willing to funnel, give, that has spent the engineering time and support time to ensure that these application and hardware is supported for the RISC-V, which again, on paper, RISC-V is great, but in reality, majority of the RISC-V customers are they're not really budget conscious, or most of the budget conscious ones, they're still looking at, I don't know, a few $100 million, few $billion that they end up having to burn, which again, this has resulted in basically no really end users really using RISC-V, but it's more on the enterprise data center guys or some specific use and customers who need specific use cases and find out, hey, I'm willing to throw billions and millions of dollars into these RISC-V platforms. Either we have internally developed it for ourselves, or we hire a contractor that specializes in RISC-V to help us get our platform software, hardware, and everything, get it working, and willing to spend the time. And again, I think ultimately RISC-V will be a viable platform, CPU platform. However, for the consumer, I do not see that anytime soon. However, for the near future, I do believe it will be very much a viable platform for the data centers, for the enterprise market. As one, RISC-V seems to have really built a great foundation for these data centers and these large corporations that is willing to just funnel money and just be like, yeah, we're going to, our use case needs RISC-V, we're going to funnel, for every manpower and money to ensure this thing gets in again. And again, this also results in quite a lot of RISC-V companies. They are undervalued, or a lot of time, all of the engineers, they are pretty underpaid for what the tech sector is offering them. This has resulted in, some certain other tech companies are like, hey, we see you work with RISC-V, but like, if you want to work with our other platform and we'll pay you more money and we give you even better, overall life, the work, pay, life balance, since, well, one, they're going to be offering you more money, and on top of, well, RISC-V seem to be unable to do that. And again, RISC-V, it is a niche future design. I think has its own use case, and for that, now that I have explained to you all the types of CPU platform on the market, let me overall give you a quick impression and analysis on it. x86 will continue on. Even if they get out of mainstream, I believe they will forever be a legacy application use case like Windows and Linux, as they're prominently using x86 and x64 and other stuff, as well as handheld, and most of the applications that you do need to run that have been abandoned on x84 and x64, they're not going to get an ARM port. Guess what? You are going to need to have these x86, x64, and hence why I think all these legacy application stuff may be forced. x86 will forever be there. And as for the mainstream, I do believe it's only a matter of time when ARM becomes the normality, because of, well, ARM is ARM. We already have Apple, and we already have Android. It's only a matter of time once Windows on ARM is getting more popular, and once more popularity, more people hop it, and on top of basically ARM being very, very vendors love it due to the fact the way vendors can force certain people to go, hey, time to buy a new device, just due to the fact that we no longer support it. And on top of, well, some of the legacy software stuff and on the x86, x64 are now being ported to ARM, and basically, yeah, I just really do see ARM device SoC platform do become the new mainstream audience stuff, and as well as again Microsoft Android, don't fuck it up. You're gonna be based on Chrome OS. You're basically there. I consider you guys the new ARM OS. If we ever mainstream, you guys are gonna be the one that is what is gonna be a lot of end user will be using. As for RISC-V, unfortunately, I think I already said that most of the time. Most end user, it's gonna be very, very long time before we even have any RISC-V end user products. But however, for the data center and the workstation stuff, for the people that wants to use RISC-V, they are going to buy RISC-V and very much become an option like the x86, x80, x64. And of course, the ARM is also in these data center workstation platforms. And anyway, I'd see that as very much a RISC-V as a data center enterprise focused platform for now, and not very end user focused platform. Anyway, that brings the end to another Baka gaming commentary, and if you do like these videos, just do the typical every platform, like, share, subscribe, and comment, and I will see you in the next video.